In this video, we're going to go over the basics of writing good prompts. Writing good prompts is a fundamental skill that you're going to want to have, and it's present in all of the blocks that require AI somehow. So we're going to go over some strategies, and we're going to look at some examples. Let's go ahead and get started. So here I have a blank project, and before we even start writing prompts, I think it's important to understand that there are two kinds of prompts in all of your AI workflows. The first is the system prompt. And the system prompt is a set of general instructions for the AI agent in this particular workflow. So in this case, we want to provide an outline of instructions just like we would a human worker. It's going to kind of lay out our expectations, what the role of the AI agent is, and there's a really easy way to create your system prompt, and that is using this generate prompt tool here at the very bottom. Now if we click on this, and let's say we are creating a blog post generator, this is just the example we've been using, we can simply type in a couple of sentences what we'd like the AI to do, and then we're going to use the AI that's built into Mind Studio in order to flesh that out for us. So I'm going to even keep it even simpler, and I'm just going to write blog post generator. And we're going to click on the generate button. Now this takes, anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. And when it finishes writing our system prompt, we're going to take a look at the different pieces that are involved in writing a system prompt, because they are slightly different than the other type of prompt that we're going to show you in just a second. So it's finished creating the system prompt for us, and I want to quickly look at how it's structured the system prompt, because it follows all of the best practices if you were to write this on your own. This top section you can kind of think of as a giant comment. So the AI is actually not going to see any of this. This is just for our own organization. So it's kind of introducing what the assistant is, its purpose, inputs and outputs, and any sort of constraints. But again, the AI is not going to see this. This is just note taking for ourselves. And you can create these notes by typing /*, and then you end it with the */, so sort of the opposite. And this can be applied inside just like this. So we're going to do /*// and you can see it already automatically created this, and we can say this is a note, the AI can't see this. So if we ever want to create notes within our prompts, we can utilize this special syntax here. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. The next thing that we should look at as we're going down the page is a general framework for writing your system prompts. And the way that this works is it starts off with the role of the AI agent, and that is accomplished via this section here that it's titled Assistant. It kind of just in a couple of sentences outlines what the purpose of this AI agent is for. So you can see here the AI is responsible for creating high quality blog content based on specific topics or keywords. Assistant will handle the entire process from research to final edit, ensuring the content is engaging, informative, and optimized for SEO. So this is just like an overview of what the AI is going to do. As we go down a level deeper, we can look at the specific task or tasks that this particular workflow is going to conduct. And so you want to think role and task. And then there's sort of any additional information. We'll talk about different things you can include at this point. So the task is to actually write the blog post itself. Now we want to make sure when things are generated for us that this makes sense within the context of the entire workflow and is not just one specific piece. In this case, we're asking it to create a detailed outline, write the full content, and perform editing to ensure clarity and quality. This is kind of repetitive. And so when you're looking at the prompt, think of, is this a broad description of the AI agent, or is it a specific task? Because the other type of prompt, which is inside of specific blocks in our workflow, should be reserved for those specific tasks, and we'll look at that in just a second. So in this case, this very specific task doesn't quite make sense in our system prompt, so we can go ahead and just delete this. Now, there are a couple of other things that you can include inside of your system prompt to provide that additional broad context for the AI agent. One of those things is this key responsibilities. You can see it kind of outlines like generally what this workflow is going to do. And so if we were to include these steps, research, outline, writing, editing, SEO optimization, we would keep all of these or we would add our own. So this is something that is totally optional that the generate prompt has generated for us. If we move down, there are a couple of other things that might be important, right? There's the response formatting. And this is really important when it comes to the outputs. And so you want to make sure that you leave some general notes on response formatting. So for example, write things in Markdown, which we'll cover in just a second. But you kind of want to give some notes on the response formatting that you'd like to see. And then you can leave some notes on the general tone and style of either the blog post or generally how you want this AI agent to interact with your prompts. And lastly, you always want to make sure that you include any constraints. So constraints are things that you are specifically indicating to the AI to do. And this could be things like today's date is this date. So you want to give that contextual information. You want to make sure that all the information is accurate. You want to adhere to SEO best practices, things like that, where you want to say, focus on this specific thing as you're going through the workflow. And this is not the only formula, but it is a general framework for writing your system prompts. In many cases, your system prompt in a workflow might not even be necessary. And so you might want to consider whether or not it's worth creating this general outline versus just including instructions in a particular block. So that's the system prompt. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other type of prompt, and that is a prompt within a block. And we've been looking at prompts in all of our other videos. This is the generate text block or generate image or generate video. All of these have a prompt area here on the right-hand side. And in this particular situation, you want to focus your attention on the specific task that you'd like to accomplish in this portion of the workflow. So if we were writing a blog post generator, we would say, write a blog post. And that's the most basic version of this instruction. But when you're writing prompts, the more context that you can provide, the better the output of that generation is going to be. So we can say things like we can add modifiers like long form blog post about the following topic. And we can utilize variables to provide that context. So for example, if we had our topic in these special tags here, and we can provide our topic variable. We don't have it created. This is just for the purposes of demonstrating another technique in order to provide that additional context. You might also include response formatting for this specific response that you're looking for in this particular task. And this can look like a lot of different things. In this case, it's a blog post. And so we can have a section that we call response formatting and include a thing called example output. And we'll close the tag. And we can include the intended output. This is a technique that we call templating. And all templating is providing the exact template of the response that we're looking for. You do this simply by creating these tags. You can call them whatever you'd like, but I find that example output works best. And then you'll use these brackets to kind of create that template. Each bracket will represent a different section. And so we can say something like title of post. We can have another couple brackets that says opening paragraph with a catchy hook. And then we can have another section that says section header. And then we can have something that says long or something like multiple paragraphs about this section. and so on and so forth. We can add these in a couple of times so that it knows we want more. We can even include instructions. So add as many sections as needed to explain. And then we can have our conclusion. And so using these brackets, we can provide the exact template that we're looking for in the response from this AI model. Now, the other thing that you may have noticed is that we are using some special characters to represent different things in our workflow. This is a formatting language called Markdown, and it's very easy to use. I'm going to go ahead and I will open up, let's delete this, or maybe we can disconnect it using Alt, and we'll link this instead to a display content block so that we can illustrate how Markdown works. And Markdown is a formatting language, and what that means is that it's similar to how you use a word processor where you can bold text and make certain headers and include lists and bullet points and numbered lists and things like that. The Markdown language indicates those specific formats for the text that you're typing out inside of a prompt or inside of a display content block. And so there is a cheat sheet. I recommend you look up Markdown cheat sheet, and there's a really great cheat sheet you'll see here by Adam P. on GitHub. And this shows you exactly what each of these special characters do. So you can see here, this sort of hashtag, one hashtag means you're making an H1 header, two hashtags, H2 header, and so on and so forth. And if we want things like lists, we can simply type out our numbers. Or if we want an unordered list, we can use this star symbol to create that unordered list. The other thing we can include are links. There are many ways to include links, but you can see here that it goes in brackets and then the link goes in parentheses. So this is the linked text. So there are a bunch of different things that you can do in Markdown when you are displaying content or when you want to provide a template to the AI. So let's take a look at some examples inside of this display content block. We can include a header. It says, "Hello world." And then we can say, "I am just a body paragraph." We can include an H2. We can say this is an H2. And maybe we want some bullet points. So we can say, here is bullet 1, bullet 2. And maybe we want to bold some text. To bold text, you can use these double asterisks. So bold text, and we close those double asterisks. To italicize, you can use one asterisk, and inside we say italic text, and you can see it even bolds it inside of our display content. And then for bold italic, you can put them together. So this is bold italic text. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can display and format your text using this Markdown language. The other thing that you can do inside of these display content blocks, which is covered in the media generation video, is you can display things like images, audio, and video when you have those things available to you. Inside of your prompts, you can also include any kind of variable. And a variable is just typed by using these double curly braces. So you can see here, I have this context variable, and that's going to represent the value of the variable context. So all of these things are saved as key value pairs. So that's Markdown in a nutshell. I recommend you check out the Markdown cheat sheet. Let's quickly just take a look at this here. I'm going to delete this variable, and we can preview this by opening up the draft agent. And you can see here we have an H1, we have a body paragraph, an H2, a couple of bullet points, bold, italic, and bold italic. So a lot of different ways. A lot of times when you use Markdown inside of prompts themselves, it's for your own organization. So the AI is going to interpret the text just as the text itself. The only thing that's unique about writing prompts for AI models is using these tags. And these tags are going to delineate a specific portion of the prompt for whatever you are putting inside those tags. So in this case, we are intentionally saying the stuff inside of these tags is the topic that I want you to write about, right? And so that's how you can create these separations in your prompt and indicate to the AI, hey, this is a portion that is on its own, that's completely separate from the instructions above, for example. And we sort of do the same thing underneath with the response formatting using these tags. So there's the example output, and this is the end of the example output. So now that you know kind of the mechanics of prompt writing, I want to quickly talk about a couple of different techniques that you can use when you are writing your prompts. We obviously talked about including context. We talked about how you can include templating. There are a couple of things that you can use when writing your prompts that will help you in order to get the result that you're looking for. One of those things is the tone of the prompt itself. So we can say tone here. And there are a couple of keywords that you can use in order to sway your AI model to output in a certain way. These words are casual, Spartan, and professional. And you can mix and match these words to generate different outputs. So let's quickly look at how this generates without any sort of tone notes. I'm going to go ahead and, since we don't have a topic, I'm just going to provide a topic, black holes, and we can open the draft agent one more time, and now it's going to run, and it's creating the black hole here. And this includes an outline and generally a blog post for us. Now let's quickly go back to our prompt here, and we're going to say write using a strictly professional tone. Now let's go ahead and run it one more time. So let's pay attention. This says imagine a place. You know, it's kind of whimsical. It's colloquial, so it's not overly verbose or trying to be a more technical document. Now let's switch over to a professional tone and see what happens. Oops, I clicked on the wrong button. Let's open the draft agent and we can reload this. And it might take just a second, but once it starts generating, we'll see how that tone has affected the output. This is particularly useful for things like writing emails or responses to comments. And you can see here that the tone is quite different, right? The cosmic enigma, unraveling the mysteries of black holes. Generally, it's the same, but you can see it's included these just like minor things, like an extra header that is a little more structured, right? It gives you some definitions that wasn't present in the previous iteration. So let's quickly modify it again. And let's say, let's say Spartan casual tone and see what happens. Now the Spartan casual tone is going to be overly friendly, right? So let's run it one more time and see what happens. Now notice the difference here. What exactly is a black hole? This is a small nuance here that we should pay attention to. What are black holes? This is the professional tone. And this is saying, what exactly is a black hole, right? You can feel the tonal difference in the writing here. And it's these small tweaks in your prompt writing that are going to make a big difference in terms of how the output feels when you're reading it. Now, the other thing that we want to look at is you might want a structured output for blocks that you generate. And so let's quickly cover how to create a structured output. Structured outputs are used all over Mind Studio workflows. We're going to cover structured outputs and how to use them later on in a different video, but I do want to show you how this is generated inside via prompt writing. So I'm going to add a new generate text block, and this generate text block is going to link to the end block here. These are kind of our extra blocks. And I'm going to say generate a list of names, emails, and let's say addresses. Now, typically when we generate these sorts of things, we are using an output schema that is simply text. It's just a text output, and it uses that Markdown formatting to format that text. But in certain cases, we want that text to be structured so that we can use specific pieces of that output in different parts of our workflow. And the way that we do that is by changing this output schema to either a JSON or CSV output, right? And JSON is the most common here. And if you're familiar with JSON, it's just a way to structure that information. You can kind of think of JSON as being like files in your computer. And each file can have folders and subfolders. It all works in the same way, but it's key value pairs. And it's represented by single curly braces. You could see here that those single curly braces have indented automatically. And so we have a key, and then we have a value. And that value can be a lot of different things. Now, in this case, we want a list of names, emails, and addresses. And so what we're going to do is have something that is a name. We're gonna, and they're all comma separated. We're gonna say email. You can see here that we're now separating the name, the email, and the address of each particular person, right? And so if we provide this sample output, it's going to create this for us when it outputs its response. And it's going to do it in this very structured way. So let's go ahead. I'm going to add a display content block. Actually, it's set to display to user. So let's go ahead and preview what this looks like. So I'm going to open up the draft agent one more time. It's going to run and generate that list for us. And in this case, it can't generate fake personal information. So I'm going to say a list of games, books, and dogs. You know, let's, and we can change this to game, book, dog. Let's see what happens. That is so strange. And so you can see here that it has now generated multiple lists. And you can see that it's in JSON, it's structured, and we have games, and that games is a list, an array here. We have books, that book is in a list here, and dogs is also in a list. And so when we use this later on in our workflows, we can call on a specific value within this game's list. Rather than having to generate just one game at a time, it's generated a full list, and we can pull, just a single name of a game in this list later on in our workflow. So this structured output is going to become more and more valuable as you start to build more complex AI agents. We're going to have a whole video on how to utilize this, but I did want to introduce you to this particular aspect of prompt writing, because it is important to make sure that you're able to structure this in a way that is usable downstream. So that's it. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave us a like if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to get more updates to Mind Studio, and we'll see you next time.